There has to be an integrated game plan, for you. And that's where the Freedom Tracker, comes in. But let me show you an example of how you can 2 to 5 times your net worth. And this can happen at almost any level, because most of us, the vast majority of our wealth is tied to our business. And we can get lots of leverage inside of the business. So unless somebody has a significant amount of wealth separate from their business, it might be more difficult to 2 to 5x it. But for most of us, we fall in the category of, kind of lots of our eggs in the basket of the business. So let's just look at this one simple example. Here we have a company that's doing a little over 2 million in revenue, 400,000 in profit, worth about 1.8 today. Could be worth closer to 3, but today it's worth 1.8. In this example, the freedom value is 7.5. So over 5 years, if we go from 1.8 to 7.5, that's 4.5 times the current value of the business, which is probably pretty close to 4.5 times of their net worth growing, and from its current state today in this example. Each of you has the ability to do that. And even if you don't go, the full 5 years, here in a couple years, in 1 year we can double it just on the value. In a couple years, we're 2.5, 3 times it. So how does that happen? As you're growing the value of your company, you're de-risking, meaning all the work you're doing, I call the propeller work with your Cultivate advisor, that makes the business less dependent on you, is the easiest way to think about it. That makes it less risky for somebody else who might buy it from you in the future. So the multiple goes up. And if you're also growing the revenue and the profit at the same time, now I have a bigger number, revenue and or profit, depending how the multiple is calculated, times a bigger multiple. And that's where you start seeing this ability to hit bigger numbers for your net worth very quickly when you're focused on these things. And so my ask for you guys is, in addition to being focused on building the business, also be focused on consciously separating wealth along the way. If you look at this one, in this example, someone goes from 400,000 to almost 1.4 in cash flow over 5 years with just a 20% growth rate, which is not unobtainable. That's not out of the realm of possibility for somebody who's just got a good and stable growing business. That's not a much larger and very mature business to hit 20% a year growth. Well, coming up with a game plan that lets you know ahead of time, like, how much of this profit do I really need to drill back into the business versus separating a good chunk of that to put the oxygen mask on me and my family first. I'd say that very few entrepreneurs are being totally efficient in how they spend that reinvestment money. When there's more cash flow, it covers up, more mistakes. And so sometimes not everybody has been down the road where they've scaled a business and sold it very quickly, in which case those people tend to want to reinvest every penny and operate at a loss for a while because they're growing, and they're relying on either investors or debt financing or other resources. But I'd say that most of us aren't in that role, right? We don't need it they're not mutually exclusive. Growing your business at a really good clip and saving money outside of your business. There's a balancing act in there somewhere that works for you. It's up to you to figure that out and be proactive about it. Let this be one of the things that you track on an annual basis and create a plan around it with whomever you're using for this, whether it's investing in real estate or stocks and bonds and Bitcoin or whatever it is that you like to invest in that's going to produce income for you outside of this business. Any questions on that? And Does anybody think that they are an exception to the rule on how quickly they could grow their net worth? Yeah, you guys are all in that boat. There's no doubt that you guys could all significantly grow your net worth here over the next few years.
Hey, Greg.
Yeah.
Greg, I got a question. Going back to that, last screen. Yeah, you've got you got a 4.5 up in the upper left-hand section. You got a multiple of 4.5. And then down in the yellow portion in the blue area, you've got it 5.5.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right? Or is it supposed to be 4.5?
Yeah, no, that's correct. Because if you're working with Cultivate, the work that you're doing is going to increase your multiple.
Okay, got it. All right.
Right.
So you're just, okay, I see what you mean.
So we're assuming that over time, we're going to improve the business and make it more valuable. And it's not going to be more valuable only because I have more revenue and profit, but it's also going to be more valuable because the multiple is going to go up. Because every time that you do something that makes the business less dependent on you, that is seen by a potential buyer as way less risky for them. Like, Mike's barely involved in this. I'd be willing to pay a higher multiple. I pay you more money for your company with the same revenue and same profit than a competitor who's way more involved in the business. Same revenue, same profit, but they're way more involved in the business. I might only be willing to pay them. Let's just make up some numbers here in one of these years. I might be willing to pay them $3 million or $2.5 million, but I'd be paying you $4.5 million because you've de-risked the business to take you out of the equation. That's worth a higher multiple. Make sense, Mike?
Yes, thanks.
Okay, cool. And we just looked here at the range of multiples for this particular one. Was between 4.5 and about 7. And so we were being fairly conservative, saying, over time, moving up to like 5.5. We're not saying we're going to get all the way up to 7 at the very top of the range where, the best in class, companies live. It's a good place to strive for. But for planning purposes, I like to show, growth, but also be conservative with it. And hope that we grow bigger and don't need it versus a plan that we're going to be worth way more money and come up short. Any other questions on that?